welcome to introducing the enhanced integration of Sierra via Summon. Again, it'll be Susan and myself presenting today. Our agenda will talk a little bit about the project overall. We'll take some time to talk about what features will be available in this phase of the Sierra via Summon integration. Susan's going to take a moment to walk us through her site and the functionality that looks there currently. And then I'll talk a little bit about how you can start to get engaged yourself and get your site configured in Preview so you can take a look at what it looks like for you. And then I'll talk about some of the ongoing development that we'll have for Sierra via Summon going into 2022 and beyond. 3 people here to help out. Please ask us as many questions as you've got. We want to make sure that you're ready. Susan John Smith comes to us from Pittsburgh State University. And as I mentioned, we'll be walking us through a demo of what it looks like for her site. I'm Brent Cook, the product manager for Summon. You probably know me from listservs and webinars like this. And we have Mike Dykus, excuse me, on board to answer any questions that you might have from the Sierra side of things. So hopefully we can answer any questions that you have today. If not, we will direct you to some documentation, and we'll be sure to share answers beyond the session and as part of that documentation as well. So what is the Sierra via Summon integration? It's taking these 2 products that you already have in your systems for many of you, Summon and Sierra, and connecting them so that they provide more value together, for libraries and for your work and interactions, and more value for your patrons. So it's a phased approach for development. Our current focus for this that we're making live in the next few weeks for you is on CAS for the authentication method. We are looking at SAML for the next phase as I talk about and launch the 2022 roadmap for Summon. I'll let you know more about details about what you can expect and when. And then also we'll have some ongoing enhancements. In addition to this first round of functionality, we've got feedback from the early adopter group, and we'll continue to work on that and add that to the product and expand the functionality that is available to you and your patrons. Excuse me. So for this first phase, there are a couple of different features you can look for in Sierra via Summon. Excuse me. As I mentioned, patrons will be able to log in using CAS if you have that set up already. When you go to log in via Summon, it will direct you to your Sierra login, and that's now integrated to work directly with Summon, as you'll see in just a moment. There's also the ability to view availability and perform requests from the result page. Your user can log in right there, click a button. We've also added some My Library Card functionality. So once folks log in, they'll be able to view library account information. They'll be able to look at loans, requests, fines and fees, messages, things like that. They'll also be able to take some actions such as canceling a request. And that's the overall functionality that you'll see. I'm going to now hand it over to Susan so she can actually show this in action in our preview environment. Something I should note before we go into the preview environment, it should be available, and we expect there to be no hiccups during this presentation. During the presentation, though, it is a preview environment, so it may be a little slower than we see in production. And when you get the chance to test yours out, there may be times where it's a little slower too, or where it may not be available for short periods of time. But what we've seen in the preview environment, I think, is very exciting. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. So
thank you very much, Brent. So what we have here is just a general search that I've done, and you'll notice up here in the upper sort of upper left, I am in my preview environment, and I'm reminded of it down at the bottom. And so what I have done here is I have done a search for a book, and I've limited it right now for the sake of hunting and fetching to the physical books in the library catalog. This is one of the things that we're more concerned with when it comes to requests and work that we're going to do. One of the new things that we have in the preview is this little ID card up here, the library card with a little head and a little mini hamburger menu kicking around. And so it says to continue access through your institution. And part of the CAS development right now is using sort of the existing screens that we have predefined. In our case at Pitt State, the left side goes through our Active Directory and Easy Proxy servers for our student and faculty access. So we use only the student ID number or the Active Directory login. Our public libraries and schools, however, that are part of our consortia, use the screen and the entry point on the right, which is for them their 14-digit barcode and the PIN that they have been previously assigned. So we do have that in place, although we could use probably 3 or 4 more types of authentication, but we'll go for it for right now because this is what we need. Let me remind myself of what my password is and not talk at the same time. There we go. Okay, so when I come in, it does show me that I am logged in, or therefore here on the upper right is where I would log out when I'm done. And I can see that I have checked out right now for 4 items. We're working on jackets, and we are working on some other issues with display. But for the most part, they're there. It does show me the due date. I'm not terribly fond of the days left, but we have talked about maybe making that category the date of checkout, so you can see the most recent things that you had checked out. And then, of course, you can try to renew, as I am an academic with semester checkouts. If I do go in and try to renew, it does say might be too soon, which is absolutely correct. So it does give you a message if you kind of try to go in and just sit on a button. I have no requests at the moment. I am fine free, and so this is another area where we're testing what kind of messages do you get if you're blocked for some reason. I don't have any current requests. I do have a reading history that is displaying, but as we have been talking this week, we actually don't track any reading history at the Pittsburgh State Library Consortium. So I think somewhere back in Sierra Admin, there is a setting that says don't even give me the option to opt in or opt out, and it would be nice if that were read by the library preferences. At the moment, no one has left me any messages. There are many messages on the Sierra system, so the question really is which are public, which are blocking, and which are informational, like please come and get your wet umbrella, you left it at the circulation desk this morning. It does show you personal details. And so on the personal details, you can see we have basically some contact information to verify, is that really me or did I pull up the wrong person's record? Okay, so when it's time to place a hold or to request material, I will go back to my results. In this case, I have said words, meaning, and power. I'd like this one. I can see that there is a location that says it's available, and I request it. I can also say, please hold for me. Okay, and that is the message going back to the circulation desk. And it says my request has been created. Okay, if I go back to my library card, I should see that an item was recently requested, but it's not in this list yet. Okay, so remember too that something has to go all the way to Sierra, and then it has to come all the way back to Summon. So we need to kind of give it just a little time, which I think in a normal situation. Here we go. Here's the request. It says it was requested on October 27th. So there is a slight lag, but we are, you know, we're running hard on the fiber as we're going through. If I then go into my Sierra instance, which I think you should be able, can you see the Sierra screens now? Yes? Yes. And what
No, not yet. We're just in your browser.
Okay. All right. Let me make sure that I have done that. And let me see. Let me try and see what happens with that.
There we go.
There we go. Okay, super. There we go. Okay, cool. All right, so then I'm going to go into notorious patron Susan John Smith. I'm going to select it, and voila, I have a hold request. Magical. What I do notice from this is it is a copy returned soonest, which is a bib level hold rather than an item level hold. And so I was concerned about this a little bit because I thought, what is how is that going to go when you have sort of multi-volume sets? So if you'll permit me, if I go here, I oh, okay. All right, we're getting fire. If you hear things going off in the background, we're having fire alarm tests, but they're testings. Okay, so let me go back here. Sorry, I'm just in case you think that the building's on fire, it's all right. Okay, so now
we can hear it.
Yeah, okay, that's good. I hope you don't. I had a feeling that was something like that was going to happen. If I go in now, for instance, and I'm going to try to real quickly search, just do one more for you here, because I went into New Grove Dictionary. This is useful for the for those of us that have a lot of music kicking around here. And if I go into, get into my right site here, locations, and I'm going to choose only volume 2, or let's see if do we have a volume 4? Let's go for volume 4. Okay, and I'm going to request that. And I say, I only want volume 4. And I request it. No items requested, requestable denied. Okay, so that could be one that is possibly on reserve or is possibly on reference. Let's try this one. And those are at Fort Scott. Reference stacks. Let me try one more time, and otherwise we'll go on. And it's not going to let me do it. Okay, all right, so we'll forget that. This does work, and I will give you an example of that in the slideshow, which we do have a couple of backup presentations there for that. When I go into the checkout here, and then as a circulation person, I find the book, I notify the patron, and then if I go to check the material out, let me see if I can do this here quickly. 1, 2, 5, 4, 9, 2, 3, 0. Okay, and so I have said, and notice it's going to a due date of my semester, end of semester, so that's really good. I close out of the patron record, and let me go down to there. I'm going to go back to my library card, and I am going to go to checked out. And lo and behold, here's words matter. Okay, so that works really, really well. And again, you have to give it a little bit of a lag. You must exit the patron record to file the transaction away, and it really is quite easy and quite quick to go through. Again, you can log out, you can log back out. You can come back in to your library card. You can come back in. Okay. And this is, you got to make sure you actually have, if you're using an Active Directory login, you got to make sure you have the right one. Okay. And here you are. I no longer have any requests. And yes, Jim, it is an LDAP login. Yes. And here I have my 5 items, including the one that I just did. I'm wondering if I quit sharing or if somebody takes it away from me. Brent, can you show them in the slide pack how the Oxford one comes across in Sierra?
Okay. So there's the words matter displaying in Sierra, and the availability of the New Grove Dictionary of Music, all various volumes. And then once you select it in there, it goes through in the Summon user interface.
Right. It takes you directly to that particular one. So it has done an item level, but that is within a multi-volume set. So these are the things that we're testing for, that we're really trying to be certain that we've covered all of those areas. Because with my branches, yes, I mean, the farthest one is 90 miles away. No one is going to go and try to drive 90 miles to pick up a copy that's available soonest. So we want to make sure that most of these, if they've been item level holds and that parameter is up for the institution, that is honored as we're going through. A couple of things that we haven't tested is we haven't tested family cards where you'd have multiple patrons coming into a situation with a family card. So that has not been tested. And so I'll turn it back over to you for the moment. I do have 2 or 3 other things, Brent, but I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, great. So let me go through, again, we have these as the examples in case something went wrong. So now I just want to talk a little bit about what you need to do to get your site ready. And then we'll talk a little bit about documentation. And then, Susan, I'll let you have any final comments that you want, and then we'll do some Q&A. So to preview your site, the good news is that you probably already have a lot of it configured the way that you need to. I'm seeing that I've got some instructions that I need to update on the next screen. So for your profile for Sierra via Summon, you need to make sure that you're on Sierra 5.1 or higher and using Sierra REST API version 6.0 or higher. You need to have CAS installed. You can confirm, you need to confirm your system has CAS installed. Oh, I'm sorry, it's in the next screen. I'm got a little distracted. So the 3 things you'll need to do to get started is confirm your system has CAS installed. And on the next slide, I'll show you exactly how to do that. You'll need to generate a secret key, and because you need to provide that to us ultimately. And then the 3rd thing will be providing the secret key, their API key, and API URL to our support, Xleader support, so that we can configure it in preview. And we'll configure it in the preview environment so you can take a look at it and actually test out the functionality. Make sure that any sort of customizations or unique traits to your instance of Sierra and Summon are interacting well and looks the way that you want. And then once you've approved that in preview, we'll be able to then push it back out to production so that you can start using it in your site. So how to determine if CAS is installed. You may already know, but if you don't, a very easy way to do that is to take that URL in any browser where that first part, https:// the Sierra app FQDN, that right there is where you would put in your fully qualified domain name for the Sierra API server. If you do that and you see a login page, you're set up. If you get a 404 message and the page is not found, then you need to have CAS set up. And if that's the case, if you do get the 404 error, you can reach out to Innovative Support. And from what I understand, it's a fairly straightforward process to get that set up for you. Once that's done, you'll need to go and activate or create a secret key. It's a fairly straightforward process. Here are the roles that you need to activate when you're creating a secret key. Don't worry about doing a screen grab right now or memorizing these 11 things off the top of your head, because the good news is all this information will be displayed on a Knowledge Center article. So we'll make this URL available after the webinar, as well as the slides and the recording. If you want to navigate there in the Knowledge Center yourself, it's under Summon Product Documentation, under Configuring the Summon Service, and then you'll see a page there that's specifically about the Sierra via Summon integration. And that will have all the details on the information you just saw on the last few slides, as well as more narrative around what are the steps you take and how do you make sure that everything is working properly for the previous setup. So timeline for this, and ultimately we want to talk about getting you live with this. You can confirm your CAS configuration now, and again, You can do that simply by using that URL and then work to get that installed. Once you have that completed, you can open a ticket with Xfigure support and again, provide your secret key, and API URL. We'll begin configuring those sites in the preview environment on November 29th. And the reason why we're doing that, and that's a Monday, and the reason why we're targeting that date is that you will be able to test this out with the new user interface in the preview environment. And that new user interface will go live just a few days before November 29th, so on the 24th. And that will give you everyone a few days to take a look at that and make sure that any sort of customizations you have work before then activating the Sierra via Summon piece on top of that as well. So hopefully that'll be an exciting new experience for you and your patrons. Again, the changes will be built in with all the rest of the user experience changes that we have in December. And it's those simple steps that configure. And as Susan suggested in her demo, we do continue, I plan to continue Summon via Sierra development. There's a lot to do beyond just this first phase, starting with expanding to include SAML. That's not currently supported. If you're interested in getting involved in some of the early adopter work there, let me know. We do plan to have that in sometime in 2022. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, I'll provide specific dates and details on what that's going to look like in my roadmap webinars for 2022 once that's announced. We'll also, in addition to expanding for SAML, include some improvements that we've identified in phase 1 and ongoing development, as well as expanding to include functionality that wasn't part of the original charter. And that brings us to the end of our slides. Susan, you said there were some other comments you want to make or other things you want to talk to?
Sure, especially now that the alarms are off. One of the things that, as Brent said, this is a work in progress, and we understand that perhaps Sierra is perhaps when it comes to the patron information is perhaps it's not just simply logging into LDAP or logging into CAS, yes or no, can you come in or can you not? We have block messages, we have family cards, we have conditional statements. Are you eligible to request this item from something that may or may not be at your library, or it may have a weird status like it's in inventory or something. And let's be honest, not all of there are required subfield characters, and then there are optional, and so it needs to have a combination of the request rules, needs to have sort of a definition of a lot of, if it is an inventory and I'm doing an inventory, is it eligible to be requested? And that may be a local configuration or a local concern. So I think that I've certainly had fun disseminating codes tables and trying to understand where they are. And obviously they're not all in Sierra. Some of them are hidden in admin. The other thing that I think that as we've tested, and Jim has asked another question about, does it allow the item level holds and in where you're going? One thing that we see with the logins also, which we've seen improvement on, but we need to have more, and that is to make sure that the authentication is not sticking cookies in the browser. In a public library environment or a shared lab situation, the last thing I want to do is come in and say, oh, I've logged off, but it still thinks I'm logged in. And so that might be fine if it's your own personal little, phone or laptop, but in a shared environment in publics and even in academics, those shared workstations really need to be clear of the login. If you say you're going to log out, you shut the browser down. It really needs to log out. Further, I just want to encourage, although I've really enjoyed this and I know that we have much more to do, we need to push forward also. I want to see phase 3 and phase 4 very soon in the roadmaps for reserve, course and instructor reserve, so we can quit shooting people back to the web OPAC in order to find material on reserve. And we also need to deal with the data for synchronization. I think one of the things that I looked forward to in this project is Absolutely, being able to not have to send up data loads 2 or 3 times a day, or trying to mess with the scheduler or anything like that. I would like it to be as transparent in Summon as it is right now. When I go from Sierra to Encore, it's just there in a few minutes, and that would be sort of, you know, the end pinnacle result of what I would like to look for. Um, and one of the concerns about the synchronization also is that we need to honor the suppression codes. So I can ship you my database and it may have a code in it, but that doesn't mean that I really want someone to display all of those hidden gems in special collections that are maybe not processed yet, or that are simply not available and offline for the public user to even see. So there are many, many more things that we can press forward on. This is a first step, and it is a good step. Brent and I have also noticed there's a couple of ADA things which will be very interesting from a user experience once the new interface is present, which I'm very excited to see anyhow in Summon. But we want to make sure, for instance, that the error messages are not read unread. We want to make certain that you can return to the results even if you have 200 items checked out. And believe me, the average faculty member can have 100 or 200 items checked out. And so there are we want to make that patron empowerment, that patron library card screen as self-explanatory as possible, and make it as customizable based on the individual libraries that patron is affiliated with. And so we're working through those issues, and I just want to say thanks to Brent and to Mike. I know that it's been kind of slogging through a lot of codes tables right now, and we just look forward very much to getting this. It's got to be a durable patron empowerment screen, because if the patron is coming back and asking a lot of questions, what does this error message mean? What does this error message mean? Then we haven't done our job appropriately. So I'm looking forward to continued working and continued emails, and just really want to express my gratitude for being a part of this. And I hope that I can continue to feed good information up to the developers as it goes through.
Yes, and we appreciate your participation, and everyone that's been part of the early adopter group that has fed information into and feedback into the system. We have a few questions that have come in through the Q&A module. The first one comes in and is a request about if the Sierra through Summons functionality only works with the native Sierra login forms, or if it works both with the native Sierra login forms and with Sierra logins provided by an institutional SSO. So currently, with the CAS support that we have, it is only through the native Sierra login form, and not through the institutional SSO. When we do the SAML integration, my expectation is that we will also be able to provide that functionality as well. Of course, I'm saying that though without many details. We'll need to take a look at that and things like that, so that people can basically look at your configuration, what systems you're using, how's it working, and can we connect? It should be straightforward. So the short answer is basically, unfortunately, no institutional support for this first phase, but 2022, most likely, depending on your configuration. So next question: could this integration be used to replace the process of sending MARC records from Sierra to Summon? So currently, the integration part of this is really focused in on that patron work, the patron requests and pieces like that. And we really haven't done anything to affect the change of the processing of the records going from Sierra to Summon and back and forth. So the record update process, basically, that hasn't been a part of this. We will take a look at how we can improve that process and how we can make sure that it's tighter and works better, and better messaging for errors and things like that, and limiting the amount of records you have to send back and forth. But again, that wasn't part of this project at this time. Let me see. Next question. Will this work if you work in an institution that doesn't use CAS? Again, it depends on what your configuration is. Most likely no. With SAML in 2022, though, we should be able to expand beyond that. If you have something that's not SAML or CAS, I'd need to know more details if that was the case. So Lynette asks, why did it say October 27th for a request that was placed today, which is October 28th? I jotted down a note on that myself, and that is a good question. It shouldn't be it shouldn't be from the practicing yesterday. It could be cached information, possibly, but I'll take a look at that and why that's
That's a great catch, Lynette. Thank you for catching that, because on all
Yeah.
my testing last night, I didn't see it, but I was testing last night. So we will keep pressing that for sure.
Yeah, I'll check. I mean, from my understanding is that should be pulling directly from Sierra and should be whatever information is reflected there. But again, something might be happening there like caching, but I will take a look. I have certainly taken note of that as well. Next question. What patron account functions are not available in the Summit interface that are available in the Sierra Webpack interface? The majority of functions are available. For the most part, though, we didn't make it so that you could edit things. So if you want people to be able to go in and edit like their PIN or personal information, we have the ability to add that, but from the feedback we got, for the most part, that wasn't something that was desirable within that summon page.
I think these are a lot of things that can be configured. The question really is they shouldn't be turned on by default, particularly if you have libraries that need to have them turned off. So they really need to read the the agency or the location preferences in the codes.
Okay. So next question, this one might be for you, Mike. Someone asked if the API we're referring to is the bib API.
And I'm not sure what that was a reference to. It came up after one of the slides was shown.
Yeah, I think it means that basically, so when you give the information to Ex Libris for us to configure this in preview, you need to provide us the secret key, the API key, and the API URL. So is that API URL the bib API or something else? I think is the question.
Yeah, I believe it's the bib API, but we'll confirm that and make sure that it's clear in the slides.
Yes, thank you. Okay. Next question. Once we have the preview environment configured, does the institution get to choose when to proceed to go into production, or is there a fixed timeline? You get to choose. And the great thing is that the actual configuration of this is fairly quick. It's a matter of minutes, not hours or days to make the change. And so if you go to the preview environment, you like it, everything looks good, you then contact support and tell them when you'd like to have it turned on. You turn it on. Turns out, oh, you didn't want to turn it on then and you want to revert back. We can change the configuration and have your site go back to not having the integration as well. So it's all on your timeline, both when you turn it on the preview environment and when you turn it on in production. And the thinking there too is that, and this also includes why we're having we're having a 3-week preview window for the new user interface, is if you need to update any documentation or things like that, you'll have the ability to have it in the preview environment as long as you'd like and make those changes when you want. Next question. Will Sierra materials booking be included in one of the upcoming development phases? That's a great question. I'm not that familiar with Sierra materials booking, but I'll certainly put on the list for inclusion for consideration. Next question. Does the integration respect all the possible requests, option settings, and requesting rules in Sierra? I think so. And I don't know that we have run across every single one that we've had in all the various institutions that we've worked with so far. That's one of the reasons why we want to make sure that you have a chance to look at it in preview prior to going live in production, just in case there's some specific configuration that's unique to your institution or that we haven't, for whatever reason, seen come through testing just yet.
Lucy, that would be the the optimal thing is to do there. But then the question always comes, if we do make a change to those request options, how are those changes picked up, or how long does it take for those changes to get picked up? Because that wouldn't necessarily be in a synchronization plan. So that is definitely, though, on my radar, that if we make changes, which we frequently do. I know in testing earlier this spring and summer, a lot of the developers were testing. They said, we just can't find anything at Pitt State that will allow us to place a hold. Well, they were trying to place holds on material from our school district, and of course K-12 was not present, and there was no one to do that. And so we know, for instance, you've got to aim in the summer, you've got to aim at the publics because they're the ones that are open and not the school district. And so it's very important that it be kind of clear to the patron why you can't request the hold. That library is not currently available. COVID rules have changed things drastically. And then at the university, as we are known, yes, we have it, but no, you can't have it. Yes, you could borrow it, but no, we're not going to let you. So we have the traditional academic university problem where, no, we're not going to let you place a hold on a special collections item. You need to come and sit and read it, and we kind of keep you in the room. So yes, the goal is to mirror that as much as possible. And I know that Mike would love to make it so.
And that actually reminds me of two other things that I want to hit on before I go to the next question. One is that as part of our roadmap for 2022 and through this year as well, in addition to developing these phases and expanding, we do have development resources or parts of our development process set aside to make sure that any changes, fixes, improvements that come through as we roll this out to a wider audience is built into the process as well. And also, Susan referenced accessibility. As part of this project and part of the some user interface changes overall, we are doing accessibility testing internally to make sure that things comply as best we possibly can. And in addition, we are submitting it to a third party for review so that we can make sure that everything meets accessibility requirements. And of course, we'll fix anything that we find as quickly as possible. And as you roll out to your sites and as well, if things are identified, when your patrons start to interact with it, that's built into the process, and we put any sort of accessibility fix into the system as quickly as possible. So if it can be in a maintenance release, we'll do that. So next question. Have we had any consortium catalogs yet participate in early adoption? And if so, have you discovered any issues particular to that? The answer to both is yes and yes. We were not officially supporting consortial catalogs as part of it, and we had a few institutions participate who had their own instance of Summon, but also were part of a consortia. We tested that out, and ultimately, it's if you have sort of a mini instance of Sierra to one instance of Summon, we aren't able to handle all of the linking and routing of the information appropriately just yet. So we are taking a look at that for a later phase, but for now, consortial support is not included. Good question, thank you. And these are all great questions. I really appreciate. Scott was giving us a hard time about asking the tough questions, but we do like it because that means that make sure that we're getting everything done properly. When do we expect SAML to be available? That is a great question. I actually, in a couple hours from now, are going into a meeting for roadmap planning. We're trying to size everything right now, make sure that we have the scope of everything we want for 2022, and we will lay out the roadmap based on that, which is basically my long-winded way of saying, I don't know just yet, but I will let you know very soon. Within the next couple of months, we'll have the roadmap finalized for 2022, and I expect the good news is that our developers have already started some of the SAML work, so it's not like we'll just be starting cold in 2022. We have, as was appropriate as we were going through doing CAS, when we could do SAML development alongside, but we did. So I expect it to go quickly, but I don't have a date right now, but I will let you know as soon as possible, and it will be part of the 2022 roadmap. Let me see the next question. Oh, it looks like it's the patron API that we're talking about. Do we know when the record integration between C and Summer will be addressed? I'm not sure exactly which integration we're referring to there. The display of information, jackets, and things like that, we expect that to be addressed sometime in the next week. As far as making requests to the appropriate record in that piece as well, we expect that to any bugs around that to be fixed before things go live in the preview environment. Hopefully that answers that question. Sierra request rules allow request options to display in Webpack only for specific locations or stats. Will this be honored in the summer? Yes, I do believe so. I'll need to confirm, but I do believe so.
That's the goal.
Yes. I mean, that's why when I say things like, I do believe so. When you say that there's a lot of things to be, when there's a combination, it's like, I think we got all the combinations, but there may be one we missed. But yes, my expectation is yes. Can you cancel a hold? Yes, you can cancel a hold.
Yes.
That
yes.
works well.
Yeah. Just
right
confirm
there.
that, Graham. Yes.
Are interlibrary loan requests included in the request module? Currently, we don't have interlibrary loan requests included, but we will be adding that as soon as possible. The available information in summon search results, does it have to be via Z3950 to Sierra, or will it work via availability sent by XML? I don't know that one. The availability information, I do believe we're pulling that straight from the Sierra API, so I assume that that's being sent by XML, but I'll need to confirm. I'll confirm. Does the name of the library in the library card area come from Sierra? Yes, it does.
Yes. Yes.
Is the display different if you use bib items, bib or item holds? With bib holds, you will not want someone to list all the items as if they were individually requestable. I am not sure on that one, Lucy. I don't know if you've seen anything. Susan can confirm that.
Right, and I will be honest. I was running this demonstration as an open scope, so all scopes displaying, but we have not yet tried it with a single site scope display to see if it. I presume if you're running with a scope of library X or Y, that you will not see those, and therefore they will not be able to do that. But that has not yet been tested. For the purposes of this, I ran open scope so we'd see more stuff today.
Okay, so next question, easy one. Can we relabel library card in translations? Yes, you can name it whatever you would like. Any text that shows up on the individual pages, like the library card pages, anything in there, you should be able to translate that on the translations tab.
Okay, those are the easy questions. Now the questions that came through chat. Let me just go through those for you, Brent. How does that sound?
Thanks.
Perfect.
Go for it.
Okay. Does the integration and requesting work with in-reach materials?
Currently no, but we will expand to include that, I do believe.
Okay. The next one is, does Summon have preferred searches and emails when search results change, similar to Sierra's preferred search saves?
Pardon, what was that?
Yeah. Does Summon have preferred searches and emails when search results change, similar to Sierra's preferred search saves?
Not currently. So that will need to be and that's something that we're looking at adding as soon as possible. But as we do these integrations and we're start to do both SAML and CAS support and have a way to identify the end user, we'll then start to incorporate some of those other features that allow for personalization. But short answer is not currently.
Okay. Next question is, how do I determine what version of REST API we have?
So that URL that you go to, if you test it out and you get a login, you should be okay, is my understanding. So you shouldn't have to worry about the API if you don't know that off the top of your head. There's another way to check it.
Yeah, customers can also check which version of Sierra they're running, and we show that compatibility of API versions and Sierra versions from the innovative support side.
And I saw another comment real quick, Scott, in the chat. The documentation, so the link that Scott included to go to the documentation, I will update it. Apparently it was put up prior to today and doesn't include the secret key information, all that piece. I'll get that updated sometime today so that you'll have the complete information. So if you go out there now, it says that some language about announcement, and today's the announcement. So I'll make sure that's updated.
Okay, next question is we are integrated Millennium with Summon. Do we need to do anything now that we use Sierra?
I don't, I mean, that I don't know. That is a good question. My assumption is no, because you integrated, yeah, that's it. Now, if you're using Sierra now, and if you switch over with integration, everything else that you have configured in your site shouldn't have to change. It's just the configuration to allow for this request piece. So I think you should be okay, but again, I don't know what I don't know.
Okay. Next question is the
LDAP. But sorry.
Is the LDAP integration still an extra cost?
You mean the CAS integration?
I'm not sure. They just put it.
So yeah, I think that was Mike. That came up earlier in some of the discussions because a lot of sites do not have this at all, and so was there going to be an additional charge?
So Innovative has been a bit proactive in going back and reviewing some customers' accounts to make sure that if you're a Summon customer, that CAS will be available. And if we've missed your library, you just need to open a support ticket with us. There isn't any charge for us to set that CAS connection up. It's pretty simple. It takes just a little bit of time, but just open a support ticket and our team will take care of that for you.
Okay, Susan, this one's for you. For Pitt State, how are the patrons reacting?
Patrons do not have access to this at this time. It is in preview only. We've had a couple of staff look at it, but no, it is not in production. I'm going to make that very clear. It's not in our regular Summit instance. So unless you know that URL and you know what you're doing, you don't go there yet. We had hoped to have it kind of tested with some of the patrons. We've used various patron types. We've simulated public library folks. And I think going back to possibly one of Jim's comments, if you have a 14-digit barcode and a PIN, I know that is one. We have a little patron called Rusty Axe, and I know that the developers have been testing against Rusty as a community borrower or as a public library borrower, and they are getting shortened due dates, as they should. But we've not had the public released on this because it is not a publicly available URL. Can't wait.
Okay, next question. Does it allow item level holds branch A item versus branch B item, not just V3 versus V4?
We need to keep testing on that as well. And again, that may have to do with the fact of my running open scope, but that is certainly on my radar to test. So thank you for asking that question.
Okay, another question is, do they have messages set up for pickup checkout? Could we see what that looks like on the user's end?
Sometime soon, yes. There is some confusion right now as to which messages should display to the patrons. And so we need to verify and clarify that manual blocks, for instance, which may be for when you send to debt collection, we need to make certain that it isn't just a message that says contact your library, but that the message is very clear and which messages will allow you to be, which are informational, I'm not completely pleased with where we are with the messaging on it, but I think we have the tools that we need to fix that pretty quickly.
Okay, another question. We've just got a few more, so I think we'll be able to finish before the top of the hour. The next question is, we prefer not to have the option of requesting items that are on the shelf. Can that feature be turned off?
I'll defer to Mike on this, but if that is a setting within your request rules or somewhere in the inner configuration, it should be honored library by library, correct, Mike?
Yes, that should be controlled by the request rules set up on the Sierra side.
And I apologize if this has been answered before. Any issues switching from normal patron info to CAS?
Not
No,
that
there
we've been, yeah, okay, so not that we've been able to identify, but yeah, Mike, I'll let you defer. I'll go.
Yeah, I was going to say there shouldn't be any difficulty switching from normal patron info to CAS. And in fact, there are libraries that may still want to run those simultaneously so that CAS is used when users are logging in via summon, and patron info might be used for other reasons to log in.
As an example on that, our community power hours here at Pitt State will be using the right side of the screen. Our faculty and staff and students use the left side. And so we have not experienced any difficulty. Of course, that screen could be slightly modernized at some point because it is being driven by the web OPAC. So yeah, I'd love to have a refresh of the coding on that screen to make it compatible looking with a newer interface. That would be super. That would make it look like a whole new product.
Okay, another question that came in. Will it be possible to include a link to requests from our automated storage?
So I'm not sure. Basically, if you have a request option that's you can provide via availability, that should be an option that you could select from there. But I'm not sure the nuances of how that link might operate differently than others.
Okay.
I think it.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say I think it would be useful if we had on that patron home display of the library card, if we could drop some URLs for assistance or home pages and things like that, similar to what we do with the footer of Encore, so that you can not get stuck there. And if you do have things that you don't see, that you can refer them directly to whoever at the library is in charge. But again, that's sort of gussying up the interface as opposed to necessities of making the transaction work.
Well, and next year we do plan to, in the summer, expand on some of the user experience and user interface to change what we've made. So that's something we could certainly consider at that point as well.
Okay, this question I can answer. The question was, they missed the beginning of the presentation. Was the session recorded? Yes, it's been recorded. We'll send that out as soon as I can get it processed and slides together and posted. So yes. Let's see. A couple of questions did come in through the Q&A. Question about LDAP integration. They'd like patrons to be able to log into Sierra with LDAP. Is it available through III?
So currently with this integration, we're only doing CAS. We'll look at expanding beyond that in 2022. SAML's going to be the priority there.
Okay. Another question. Sorry if they missed this, but will this be replacing the OPAC eventually?
And it is possible. I think that's up to how you use your OPAC, how you use Summon, and if you feel that it's complete enough to fill that, but it's a possibility.
Okay, last question that I have so far, and we are closing out the session in terms of time. So this will be the last question. If you have any other questions, you can submit them and we will reach out back to you. Will there be a URL that will directly open the patron's account in Summon, for example, for a link on the library homepage bypassing the Summon search?
Yes, I do believe that there's a URL that you can use for that. If not, we'll get that addressed. I'll put that in the system as well. And Virginia also made a comment about some issues with availability not working quite there. Something being checked out, but it shows on the shelf. So Virginia's institution is part of the early adopter group. I'll follow up with you directly on that, Virginia, and see what we can do to resolve that one as well. Thanks for the info.
Perfect. So if you want to make some quick concluding remarks, both you and Susan, that would be fantastic.
Susan, you want to start?
Well, thank you very much. We have much to do. Our job is not done yet. We need to continue to log, continue to report errors. We need to continue to, I've already noted about 6 different areas of things that I certainly hadn't thought of. So our job as users and as members of the user groups is to continue to lobby and push and lobby. But I do want to thank those that have already gotten it on the boards, and let's keep doing this and making it better each and every time.
Yes, and thank you everyone for taking some time out of your day to attend. Our emails are there on the screen if you have any follow-up questions or any additional information. As I mentioned, I'll be updating that documentation page here in the next 24 hours, which should have more details on how to move forward and get started with your own integration with CRVS Summon. So again, thanks, take care, be safe out there, and let us know what else we can do to help.